Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So the 2024 election took place in November, but tomorrow is the most important election day that we've had since November's 2024 election. And no, that's not an April Fool's joke. This is completely legitimate. There is a very crucial election in the state of Wisconsin. We've talked about it over the past couple of months on this channel, but also several elections taking place in the state of Florida. And today's video is kind of a reminder for a lot of people to get out and vote in Wisconsin. Take people with you if you have not already voted yet, and make sure that if you don't live in Wisconsin, but you know people that support Trump that live in Wisconsin, just send them a text message, be like, hey, just making sure that you're going to vote in this crucial election tomorrow, because it is true that there's a lot at stake in Wisconsin. It might not seem like it, but this could dictate the outcome of 2026, because the House majority, it's very narrow. There's very few competitive seats compared to like 2018. And the liberal activist judge, Susan Crawford, who is running for this seat, she has basically come out and said, yeah, we're going to draw out 2 Republican districts. And also when it comes down to election laws that could dictate the future of how Wisconsin elections are run, mind you, it was not really much of a coincidence why Wisconsin was the closest state of the Rust Belt 3. We want to make sure that we can make it as red of a state as possible. The election laws that are currently in place are very 2020-esque. Trump still won, we know that, but if you want to change them, you're going to have a conservative Supreme Court, and that's why Brad Schimmel is the candidate that people need to get out and vote for. They need to vote for Brad, and it's very important. It might not seem like it, but it is. And we'll get into the election analysis side of things, but Florida has 2 very crucial elections as well. You have a congressional special election in the Panhandle District, the 1st District, in which case you have a replacement for Matt Gaetz, Jimmy Petronis. He's up against a Democrat, and that is not very competitive. The early vote is R plus 18.5 and counting. It probably gets up into the 20s. I think he wins by more than 20 points in the 1st District. And then in the 6th District, Randy Fine, a little bit of a weaker candidate. He makes a lot of people angry. He's kind of a rhino. He's kind of a blowhard, Peter Griffin knockoff type of guy. Overall, he has just a massive ego and not a lot to show for it. And a lot of people don't like him. I still think people need to get out and vote for him because it's crucial, but he's making the seat more competitive than it needs to be. And as a result, I think that come 2026, yeah, he should be primaried out. But as of right now, we need to make sure he crosses the finish line. I think he's going to win by double digits at the end of the day. I'm not super worried about these districts, but that's too close for comfort. And Democrats are going to have like this big, like, oh, well, look, we overperformed in Florida. It's just going to give them like this massive, massive ego just because Randy Fine is a relatively weak candidate and there's not going to be the highest turnout, and Democrats are able to capitalize off of it. But still, we need to make sure that we win because both of these seats are crucial. Now, Wisconsin, Republicans are not exactly favored according to most metrics in the Supreme Court race. However, I will say that it's not going to be another 2023. Total spending in this race is projected to reach $100 million by Election Day. A lot of that is on the Republican side. Now, Crawford has been getting a lot of money from like Soros, but now we have Elon. Elon is like our Soros. We kind of have like an even playing field that is giving us a leg up, but it's about turning out these voters who vote for Trump but don't usually vote as often in midterm years, especially in off-year elections. So you're really going to need, from 2023, when Republicans got decimated by 11 points, you're going to need about, a few percentage of the Janet vote to flip to Brad, and I think that's possible. But on top of that, you're going to need a lot of new voters who are going to vote for Brad on Election Day. Now, the early vote looks better. It looks much better than it did in 2023. And you can see this, it's not even close. If you look at this, the counties that are up, and Republicans have had a lot of momentum. We've had a big push and we got to keep pushing. You look at what's going on. Washington County, it's up 103.1% from 2023. That is a massive positive sign. Now, hopefully it's not all cannibalization. Hopefully you get a lot of voters out on election day. That's all very important, but you are seeing a massive shift in the in-person ballots cast, and they do typically lean Republican. So we better hope that there's a lot left in the tank. There is a lot left in the tank, but they need to show up on election day. Big uptick in Waukesha, big uptick in Racine, big uptick in Kenosha. Not as big of an uptick in Dane and Milwaukee. Definitely those are going to benefit the Democrats, but still the main uptick that we've seen has been in those WOW counties and in these red areas that you're seeing. And there's a massive shift in the not just ballots returned, but in-person ballots returned, which is going to be more Republican favorable. And we saw a poll that was conducted out of Trafalgar, which again, their poll overestimated Kamala Harris in Wisconsin this past election cycle. So that's an important thing to note. So if you apply the same polling error, this is a Brad victory, or it's a very, very close race. It's possible that it could happen. And you see this, those who have already voted have backed Crawford by 10. The early vote is typically more Democrat. And again, that's a big shift in the right direction, because when you see that, it's like, okay, so the people that have already voted early are already less pro the liberal judge than the total electorate was back in 2023. So you're already operating at a position of strength, and those who are likely voting, which again, they're showing that there's going to be a big portion of the electorate that hasn't voted yet, according to this, and those who are likely voting are going to back Brad by just 5. Now, that's not enough. It's going to have to be more than that. I think it's going to be more than that, to be honest. The question is, how many of those voters are there, and are they going to be able to go out there and carry him to victory? He has momentum. This is true, but still, it's going to come down to turnout. And a lot of these voters, these white working class voters in Wisconsin, as you saw in 2023, they're less likely to turn out. Now, abortion's going to be a little bit less of a factor in this race as it was in 2023. That doesn't mean that the Democrats aren't going to try to run on that to drum up their turnout in places like Madison. However, you talk about crime and the messaging. Schimmel is somebody who is not like trying to run from Trump like Dan Kelly, which didn't help him. He's somebody that is, being somewhat, I guess you would say, vocal in the fact that he accepts the endorsement. He's somebody that is talking about the issues, common sense issues, and he possibly can win. He's going to have to flip the bow counties and a lot of these like rural counties that ended up going for Janet. I think he is. The question is by how much, and also what about the WOW counties, because these are crucial. And again, I don't think Milwaukee's going to be as much of a problem, because even Madison, Dane County, had a higher turnout in 2023 than Milwaukee County did, and Milwaukee doesn't have this massive uptick. So it is true you're working with one hydrogen bomb of Democrat votes instead of 2, but you got to counteract it, because it is a massive, massive vote dump, and definitely 82% in Madison, winning Madison by 154,000 votes. If you can, somehow trim that down just a tad, that goes a long way, but you have to really run up the score in the WOW counties. Dan Kelly, if you add them all up, he won the WOW counties by maybe like 40-some thousand votes. You're going to have to win them by like 70,000-ish plus, and you're going to have to do better in the rural areas. So the fact that there's more resources going in, there's a lot of positive signs. But in terms of my final predictions, am I ready to go out there and say that Brad is going to win? Well, I think he has a decent chance, and I'm not trying to say this to demoralize people, but we've seen how these things go, and if he did win, it would be a massive upset. I don't think it's going to be a 10-point underperformance of Trump's margin like what we saw with Dan Kelly in 2023. I don't expect it to be like that Pennsylvania special election where Republicans just were asleep at the wheel in Lancaster County and ended up losing a seat that Donald Trump won by 15 points. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a race where the tide is just naturally working against the Republicans, because Republicans are the lower propensity party. So higher turnout on Election Day helps, and if it's enough, it's possible. The first one to 1 million votes could win. 5% in this race is going to be like 100,000 votes. So if you find 100,000 people, even if the polls are modeling like a 5-point win for Crawford on aggregate, well, you would still have Brad win. So we need people out and voting for Brad. Take people with you. But my final predictions are these, and I hope I'm wrong about the Wisconsin race, but I think that Jimmy Petronis is going to win by around 25. I give him a 99% chance of victory or more. Randy Fine, I think he wins by 11. I'll give him a 93% chance of victory. Right now, I have Crawford by 4. I'll give her a 70% chance of victory. I would love to be wrong. I don't think that people should look at my prediction and be demoralized. I'm trying to keep it as real as possible, to tell people that, yeah, we need people out and voting. This is important because the future of Wisconsin is at stake. And technically, if this election was not happening, the liberals would still have the Supreme Court. But we have an actual chance to correct course in the state of Wisconsin, keep it red, make it a red-leaning swing state. And this could dictate the outcome of the 2028 election. There's a very solid chance Wisconsin could be the state it all comes down to. And if Republicans win it, then they're going to be much more likely to win the White House in 2028. So it's a very crucial state for Republicans to do well in. Hopefully they go out there. Hopefully they win it. We'll see what happens when it's all said and done. But get out and vote if you live in those Florida districts or the state of Wisconsin, and vote for Brad Schimmel. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.